Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the dramatized reading of Taxi Girl by María Velasco, translated by Jessica Rainey, and which I had the pleasure to direct. Congratulations to the whole team and to the actors, Candela Gómez, Cristina Linas, and Patrick McHugh. We will start now the Q&A with an introduction and a few questions, and then I'll open the floor for your questions. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the dramatized reading of Taxi Girl by María Velasco, translated by Jessica Rainey, and which I had the pleasure to direct. Congratulations to the whole team and to the actors, Candela Gómez, Cristina Linas, and Patrick McHugh. We will start now the Q&A. Okay, it's Maria. Action and a few questions. I'm gonna mute there for a second. Okay, I'll continue with the introduction. I'll start introducing María Velasco. She's a playwright and a theater director, and she also has a PhD in audiovisual communication from the Complutense University of Madrid and a master's degree in scenic practice and visual culture from the University of Alcalá. With a prolific career in Spain and a very unique voice as a playwright, we could highlight some of her plays, which are Günther, Perros en Danza, which won the Marqués de Bradomín Accessit Award in 2010, La Ceremonia de la Confusión, Líbrate de las cosas hermosas que te deseo, Si en el árbol un burka, Fuga de cuerpos, Escenas de caza, or Taxi Girl, which won the Max Haupt Award Ciudad de Valencia in 2017. Her plays have also been translated into Basque, French, Italian, and English, and have been performed internationally. She's now in rehearsals for her play Talaré a los hombres de sobre la faz de la tierra that will open in November at the Festival de Otoño in Madrid. Hello, María. Welcome, and it's a pleasure to have you here with us. Bienvenida, María. Es un placer tenerte con nosotros. Her plays have also been translated into Basque, French, Italian, and English, and have been... Hello. I think there is a problem with the sound, and I know what the solution is. María, if you close... María, si cierras la ventana donde está el vídeo de YouTube, de la página web. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. Bienvenida, María. Es un placer. Okay, we're going to solve the problem. Have also been Basque, French, Italian, and English. Perfect. Okay, fantastic. Hola, bienvenida.
Congratulations to the team. Thank you very much.
Gracias. Thank you so much. We have with us Candela Gómez. Candela, she's an actress. Many of you that have joined previous conversations, so that have come to the theater to see different plays, may have seen her. She's worked with us, with the Cervantes Theatre in many different plays. For example, Blood Wedding, The Judge of the Divorces and Others, The House of Bernarda Alba, The House of the Spirits. And also Candela, if you have seen some of the Q&As, she normally is with us translating for the playwrights that may need translation. So today you have seen her play in June in the dramatized reading, and she will also be translating Maria during the Q&A. Welcome, Candela, and congratulations.
Thank you, Paula.
And finally, we have here with us Jessica Rainey. She's a translator from Spanish and French and a translation teacher at Durham and Newcastle universities. She translated the Spanish play Corre by Yolanda García Serrano for Cervantes Theatre in 2019. And recent literary translations include a series of poems by Salvadoran guerrilla leader Lil Milagro Ramirez, featuring Guernica magazine, and poems from events such as Protest Poets in Translation at the South Bank Center and Translation and Collaboration in Newcastle University. Hello, Jessica, and welcome.
Hello, hi, thank you.
Okay, so I want to start with a couple of questions here in the Q&A, and then, as I mentioned, I'll open the floor to everyone that has a question. I'll remind you that you can send your questions via YouTube in the YouTube box that you'll see on the right-hand side, the comment box, or via Twitter, and then we'll answer those questions here. So I'll start with Maria. Well, first of all, asking you, what do you think of the dramatized reading, and how was the experience and the feeling of hearing the play for the first time in English? Te preguntaba María qué te ha parecido la lectura dramatizada y cuál ha sido tu impresión al escuchar la obra por primera vez en inglés.
Bueno, es emocionante porque es devolver de alguna manera a estos personajes también, sobre todo a Henry Miller y Jung, a su lengua materna. Si quieres te dejo...
Candela,
gracias. Maria was saying that it's very exciting to listen to these characters speaking in their mother tongue, which is English.
Además, antes estábamos considerando cómo ahora en los ensayos hay que mantener la distancia de seguridad, y es algo que genera en esta obra una tensión sexual muy especial, ¿no? Quizá es una distancia social similar a la que estos personajes vivían, aunque no hubiera una pandemia.
So having to take into consideration when she's rehearsing with her team, social distancing, as we have had to do with the play, she thinks this could have helped to build up a sexual tension similar to the one that the characters may have lived back then, even if it was not related to a pandemic or anything.
Perfect. And where I want to continue asking, where does the need to write about the relationship between Henry Miller, Anais Nin, and June Mansfield come from? ¿De dónde nace esa necesidad de escribir sobre esta relación entre Henry Miller, Anais Nin y June Mansfield?
Pues quizás son las primeras lecturas de adulto que yo hice como adolescente, ¿no? Cuando era adolescente descubrí las novelas de Henry Miller, las tenía que leer todavía un poquito a escondidas, y descubrí también los diarios de Anais Nin. Y la sensación era extraña porque, aunque estaba leyendo libros que eran del pasado, a mí me parecía que hablaban del futuro.
So Maria was saying that the first adult readings she did as a teenager were precisely the novels by Henry Miller and the diaries of Anais Nin. And she had the feeling that reading something from the past, it strangely transported her or spoke to her of the future.
Y era normal que me pareciese que hablaban del futuro, porque yo era una niña, todo lo adulto era futuro, pero también es verdad que todos los adultos que me rodeaban vivían vidas que eran mucho más grises o mucho más monótonas frente a las de estos personajes.
She says it was normal that being a girl, she thought it was talking about the future, about being an adult, but she also realized that all the adults that surrounded her back then were living more humdrum lives, more grey existences.
Entonces había ya un borrador o lo que sería una primera versión escrita de una manera muy temprana en mi juventud, pero de pronto bueno, me encontré en Madrid con una actriz y productora fascinada por el universo de Anais Nin. Y creía que era un momento en el que era interesante recuperar esa figura, puesto que bueno, estábamos también hablando de libertad sexual en estos momentos, ¿no? Estábamos hablando en España, ¿no? De esto que se llamó el PIN parental, ¿no? De si, bueno, si las relaciones homosexuales se podían igualar a las relaciones heterosexuales, y ella dijo, tenemos que recuperar estas figuras son nuestro presente y el futuro.
Maria wrote a first draft of the story, and later on when she moved to Madrid, she met an actress and producer who was fascinated with the world of Anais Nin, and this was in a time in Spain where we were talking about sexual liberty, where something called the parental PIN was causing a bit of controversy. So they thought that these figures would be interesting to speak about.
Es una obra de juventud y diría también que de mitomanía, ¿no? Hay mitomanía por estos personajes y de hecho Jessica como traductora se ha encontrado con la dificultad, ¿no? de ver cómo hay un diálogo entre la obra con fragmentos originales de estos autores, ¿no? Constantemente, de anotaciones, subrayados que yo hice sobre los libros, ¿no?
Maria says it's also a play that speaks about myths, the myths that these characters were, and how Jessica has had to include original texts within the play, which has been a complicated labor as well.
And how, because I mean, during the rehearsal process, even if it was only for 2 days, but I think that Candela can also say that there was a very direct path into the complexity and the depth of each of the characters and their unique relationships. And you've spoken a little bit about the writing process of the play and the starting point, but I wanted to know more about how this play has been evolving from the early stages when you were very young writing about it, and how, you know, the cooking process of the play. Básicamente decía que aunque durante los ensayos, aunque haya sido solamente 2 días de ensayo, pero bueno, realmente enseguida creo que hay una línea muy directa y como muy rápida en la que entras a ver la profundidad de los personajes y la relación tan única que tienen cada uno de los 3. Entonces eso me hace pensar un poco en el proceso de escritura que tú has tenido y ahora contando la duración tan larga, ¿no?, que ha habido en el tiempo desde tu juventud, esos primeros escritos de la obra hasta la obra ya finalizada. ¿Cómo ha sido ese proceso de escritura?
Cuando yo retomo el texto como adulta, porque ya se convierte en un encargo, la parte que más me afecta es pensar cómo cada uno de estos 3 personajes tiene una relación diferente con la vida y con el arte. Por una parte, parece que Henry quiere ser artista a cualquier precio. Ese es su destino, es su fin, es su objetivo, ¿no? Incluso vive para escribirlo después. En el caso de Anaís es muy significativo que casi toda su obra son cartas y diarios. Es como que la vida y la escritura estuvieran al mismo nivel. Y en el caso de Jun es alguien que intenta hacer de su vida una obra de arte. Son 3 formas diferentes de ver la vida, el arte y las relaciones entre ambos.
Maria was saying that when she picked up the first draft, she focused on the different ways in which these 3 characters looked at life and art. For instance, Henry Miller, he wanted to be an artist from the start, a writer. Anaïs, she finds it very peculiar that all we have of her are diaries and letters, which is quite relevant. And June, Maria says she wanted to make a work of art out of her life. So those are the 3 ways in which these 3 characters focused on life and art.
Y creo que al final, cuando comencé a escribir la obra, era más, estaba más con el personaje, fascinada por Henry, pero empatizaba con el personaje de June, y como adulta quizá mi identificación era más con Anaïs, porque empezaba a sentir que el arte solo tiene sentido si es para transformar la vida, ¿no?
When she started writing, she was fascinated with the character of Henry. She also empathized with June, but in her adult life, she feels more identified with Anaïs and her particular views.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Jessica, I wanted to ask you, first of all, how was the translation process for this play, and what were the challenges that you encountered?
It was a very interesting process, I must say. Well, when I first received the text, one of the first things, obviously, that struck me was the three characters who are American characters. I mean, well, two American and one Cuban, Spanish, French. And of course, I'm a British English translator. So the very first thing that struck me was, oh, this is going to be interesting. We've got American characters, you know, kind of passing through or being recreated by a Spanish playwright and then coming back into English, as you were saying, Maria, coming back into English, but via a British English translator. So that was the first thing. And then obviously the second thing was that, well, these are two major literary figures of the 20th century. That's quite daunting as well. That was quite daunting. So I think, yeah, my first impression was interesting, challenging, but then of course I read through the whole text, and you know, the dynamic between the characters was so interesting and so engaging that I thought this is going to be interesting and challenging, but it's also going to be fun to translate this, and it was fun.
Fantastic, thank you. And how was the process of, because one of the things that we like here at the Cervantes Theatre, and you know, because we've worked together before, it's the process of these dramatized readings that before we did them with a live audience. Now, sadly, because of the pandemic, we had to adapt, but luckily we can share and keep working and keep being creative and sharing the work with everyone online. But this is a process that we like to do, which is kind of involving translators during the process of rehearsals and during the dramatized reading, kind of sharing with the audience and being able to get the feedback, to listen to the translation, which I think is very important. So I wanted to ask you, how is this process kind of working for you, and what are your views on that?
This, for a translator, this is an amazing process. It's so rare for a start to hear your translation at a sort of draft version and be able to change it, to hear how it's sounding, to hear what's not working well. So it's a real privilege for a translator to have that process available. And yes, in terms of this particular one, seeing it online, okay, we miss the sense of the audience, which I mean, you have your own reactions, but you can't also sense the audience's reactions. So yes, obviously it would have been wonderful to do it in the theatre and to get the feedback from the audience as well. But the advantage of having it online, and that now it's recorded and I've got it available for the next few days, is I can go back over it, and there are little tweaks I'd like to make. There are little word changes I'd like to make. So there are advantages to doing it this way as well.
Fantastic, brilliant. Candela, I wanted to ask you, for you, it's not the first time, obviously, that you work on a dramatized reading with us, but it's the first time that, due to the current circumstances, you're part of an online dramatized reading like this, which is a mix between audiovisual and theater, between a play, with a play, especially this one that is so physical and sensual, and as Maria was saying before, that the sexual tension is there, and suddenly in a very quick time you have to create it in a different way and playing with the camera. So tell us, how was the experience for you?
It has been quite a challenge, as you know, Paula. Perhaps the most challenging rehearsed reading I can remember, because obviously it's a reading, but it's dramatized, it's staged, but we're filming it. It's a very physical play, but social distance. But I felt very inspired, and also I think it brings out the creativity in all of us, and it pushes us to find new ways to do things and to tell particular things. So in that sense, it has been really refreshing and motivating to find new ways to tell a particular story.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. Yeah, for me as well, kind of directing the dramatized reading, suddenly you have to change completely the way you direct for theater, having the cameras only in one day. It's challenging, but it's very rewarding. And as you say, it's a kind of a privilege to be able to keep creating and sharing this with the audience.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's fantastic. Now coming back to the characters, I wanted to ask you, Maria, but also you, Candela, about the specific the character of June, which I think in this play it has a spotlight. I think it's very a special spotlight on her that maybe in real life it would be more for Henry or for Anais. I wanted to ask you, Maria, about this specific choice that you have made, and also to you, Candela, how you see the character and basically how you prepared and you understood the character. Decía María que...
Sí, I can understand.
So... Ah, vale, perfecto.
June es un personaje fascinante, ¿no? Porque aunque, como se dice en la obra, ella apenas tenía estudios, fue una autodidacta. Ella se nutrió de lecturas muy importantes y de lo que eran las corrientes artísticas de su época. Y siempre estaba rodeada de artistas y, lo que es más, apoyándolos desde su economía fundamentalmente precaria. Se puede decir que Henry Miller paga un precio muy alto para llegar a ser escritor. Llega a ser escritor muy tarde, pero June Mansfield paga un precio muy alto simplemente por vivir, y por vivir de una manera libre, o por vivir de una forma que no tenía que ver con su tiempo. Se puede decir realmente que era una mujer avant-garde, ¿no? De vanguardia.
Maria was just saying that June is an avant-garde woman, how being basically illiterate, she was always surrounded by artists wanting to help them economically, how she financed Henry Miller's career, who became a successful writer quite late in life. And that's the price he had to pay, should we say, for being a successful writer, whilst June paid a very high price just to live the way she did in a free way.
Era una mujer que tenía una economía independiente, mantenía a su marido, ¿no? Más allá de eso, ella era bisexual, ella viajaba a Europa, se movía con libertad, y digamos que para su tiempo fue alguien que pagó siendo considerada una histérica, ¿no? Ella sufrió electroshock al final de su vida porque en ese momento era considerado a alguien bueno, pues que simplemente carecía de salud mental, simplemente por tomarse pues, bueno, esa libertad de vivir acorde a sus ideas o a sus sentimientos, ¿no?
June was economically independent. She was bisexual. She liked to travel. She was free, and therefore at some point in her life she was considered crazy. She was put in a mental institution, received electroshock, and this is precisely the high price she had to pay in order to live according to her own values and ideals.
Entonces parece que la historia rescata esta especie de personajes que transgredieron y que fueron castigados en su época, estos scapegoat, ¿no? Creo que se dice en inglés, como el chivo expiatorio. Podemos pensar, son como Cristos, pero a escala humana, ¿no? Podemos pensar en un Van Gogh, podemos pensar, pero no ha sido así con las mujeres, ¿no? No hay una enciclopedia de esas mujeres que fueron totalmente chivos expiatorios o cristos apaleados, ¿no?
Maria was talking about the characters that break the rules and are punished for it. She was mentioning the figure of Van Gogh and of Christ, but also noting that there aren't many women that correspond to this particular image.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And for you, Candela, tell me your experience.
For me, June Mansfield was, I think, the big mystery in the love triangle. And I felt the challenge of the play was, in a way, to give her a voice. Mm-hmm. Because all we know of her is through what other people said or wrote about her. So I felt she didn't have a clear voice. And that, I would say, was a big challenge. Obviously, the fact that she was happy to support economically Henry Miller by selling her body. Mm-hmm. She does have a phrase that says she's happy to sell her own blood if that will get him to be a successful writer, and how she doesn't think she's a whore, just a patron of the arts. And this wasn't really acknowledged by Henry Miller, apparently, or he took it for granted in a way, and then refused the economic assistance when she was living her darkest hours and put in a mental institution. So obviously I'm saying this from the doorstep of the play after just 2 days of working and only being able to see the tip of the iceberg that this woman must have been. Mm-hmm. So it has left me very hungry, to be honest, and wanting to dive in to the play and continuing to know these characters in depth.
Good, thank you. We have a couple of questions from the audience. One is from Rebecca Wood, and she asks, will you be staging this play post-lockdown? I would love to see a non-socially distanced version. Well, that would be the dream, I think. Here at the Cervantes Theatre, we've been wanting to bring the work of María Velasco for a long time, and now we had the opportunity to do this dramatized reading. One of the key aspects of doing these readings is to have the feedback audience and to be able to commission the translations and to be able to show how the future production could look like. So I think this is a play that definitely would work very well here in the UK. That's my personal opinion. And I think that definitely it's a play that it will be, that we will consider once we can reopen and do a theatre again with a live audience. Yeah. It's a possibility, a strong possibility, and obviously what we mentioned before, this play that it's about a love triangle that requires that physicality, that proximity, that sexual tension and sensuality. We can just try to share that and try to evocate that through film. With the social distance in place, but obviously with a real life performance and a live audience, and without social distancing, yeah, that would be fantastic. We have another question here, which says, what were the most challenging aspects of staging this play? We have mentioned a couple of them, which it's basically it's a dramatized reading, so you don't have the time to rehearse as if for 4 weeks, like you do in a normal production. So you have only 2 days to really go through the text, try to get as much in terms of the actors and working with the actors, as much information, as much relationships between the characters as possible in just the 2 days, working in the blocking, having in mind that it's going to be filmed. So obviously there are adjustments that you need to do. And then 1 day of filming, which for a full length play of an hour and a half, it's as well, you need to go very quickly and knowing exactly, yeah, what shots and what vision you want to recreate within the time scale. So I will say that it's been very challenging, but at the same time really fun and really rewarding working on this play. I am going to ask another question to Candela, which is related to the translation as well. Because as Jessica knows, and you have worked before in Corre last year, it's a coincidence, a happy coincidence, which Corre is the play that we did as a dramatized reading last year that Jessica translated and that Candela performed here at the theater. So one of the things that we do as well as in rehearsals is kind of checking and how the translation flow and having that feedback, that kind of direct conversation between the director, the translator, the playwright and the actors, which I think is very enriching. So I wanted to ask you, Candela, how was the experience of working again with a translation by Jessica, and in particular for this play?
I read the play in Spanish first of all, and I was very happy to see that the translation flowed very smoothly. I don't think we actually modified anything, so it felt really natural, which is something that always concerns me when you're reading something in your mother tongue and then you have to give it the same energy and express the same kind of things in a different language. It can be a bit of a puzzle, and when it feels you're forcing it, especially when we have so little time, you just want it to flow and to feel natural, and it did, to be honest. So yeah, regarding that, it was very easy to work with, Jessica.
Thank you. That's great to hear. There were a few scenes that I was keen to sort of pay attention to. Actually, I think the monologue, your monologue at the beginning, I was very keen to see how that was working, because I think it's harder to visualize the monologues, or harder to hear, the rhythm or the pacing when you're translating it. So it's really helpful to see that. And the other scene that I was really keen to see how it was working was the kind of argument scene between June and Henry, where obviously by the end she has to feel like she's going to walk out. So that it has to build enough, and that the insults have to sort of build enough for her to do that at the end. So I was really keen to see how those were working, and I was pleased, actually. I thought they worked quite well. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Well, this is the end of the conversation. Thank you very much for being here. And I want to thank again Acción Cultural Española, the Cervantes Institute, the Spanish government, and the Spanish Embassy here in London for their support. And a big thank you also for you for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you next Thursday with our next dramatized reading, Clown's Minute, by José Ramón Fernández, translated by Puerto Baker and directed by Jorge de Juan. Thank you so much, Jessica, Candela, Maria. It's been a pleasure having the opportunity to talk with you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone. See you next week. Bye-bye.